Okay,
Good.
so welcome back to another episode of When Elders Speak. Our special guest today is Louis March, and we're so grateful to have you here, Louis. Before we get into the questions, let the people know a little bit about who Louis March is and what you bring to.
Okay, first of all, thanks for the invitation to participate in When Elders Speak. It's really good to have this dialogue, because sometimes I think elders go to their grave with so much experience, insights, and wisdom without getting a chance to share it. Whether it's the generational divide, whether it's generational conflict, whether it's generational misunderstanding, we're losing a lot. And that's not our tradition, that is not our belief, that is not our history. The elders play a significant role. So that's why I'm happy to accept this invitation and to try and add value to what you're trying to accomplish. Yes, this is Louis March, speaking live and direct from Toronto. And my work in the community started over 40 years ago. Over 40 years ago. And if you do the number crunching, it might be over 50 years. My work initially started under the stewardship of people like Dudley Laws, Charles Roach, Sharona Hall, people that guided and directed me in terms of mentorship, as initially as part of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. There was a youth wing called BICAP, Black Youth Community Action Project, BICAP, and I was the president of that community organization. And we had organized a Black Youth Provincial Conference in Ontario and Toronto in 1979, after a lot of police shootings, uncalled for, unexplained, and very criminal and very brutal. So the community was organizing around that. So that's one of the initiatives that BICAP took up. And we also organized programs, visits to people that were incarcerated. This is in the 1970s.
Wow.
So I've been engaged in youth activity for the longest of times. My profession is I'm a corporate manager, and I did that for about 35, 40 years of my life in the financial services industry, but at the same time, I still work with young people in our community. In programs such as the African Canadian Heritage Association, where I was the communications director. This is an organization that's been around for over 50 years, and they focus on teaching African Caribbean history to children in our community, right? They've been doing it for over 50 years, and I was a board member for a significant amount of years there. This was all going on as I was working in my chosen career, which is financial services as a corporate manager. My department got outsourced to India, and I got a generous severance package and gave me an opportunity to reevaluate where I wanted to go moving forward. And I said I'd done enough time in the corporate world. Now I'm going to focus on community full-time instead of on a part-time basis. We had the shooting, the gun violence in the Eden Center. We had the shooting, the gun violence in the community barbecue in Danzig. And because I'm working with young people, it was a big issue for me. Why are we shooting ourselves? Why are we creating all this violence in our own community? So I called a community meeting together with a lot of the youth groups that I had worked with. And we said, we're going to tackle the gun violence issue. So moving forward, we set up a zero gun violence movement, which is a very bold and ambitious objective to get zero gun violence in our city when most people think it's impossible. And to be honest, I also think it's impossible. But we set the bar high.
Right.
And we also understand that we already have zero gun violence in our city, but it's only in certain community, certain postal codes and for certain people. So if they can have zero gun violence in Rosedale, why can't we have zero gun violence in Rexdale?
Right.
And what are we doing to close the gap? Or are we just going to accept it as a status quo and hope and pray? So my answer was really hell no. We have to actually get involved, find out what's going on, and do whatever we can do to close the gap. It started out as a 90-day summer campaign. We figured we'd solve the problem. But as we kept peeling the layers off, little did we know. Come day 91, we had to continue. We started off with 7 community organizations. Now we work with over 40 across the city.
Wow.
And 9-10 years later, we're still doing the work. And but we have a better understanding of what's going on and what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't going there blindfolded as we did when we launched Zero Gun Violence Movement in 2013. Now we know what's going on. We know what needs to be done, and we can speak confidently about what needs to be done. So my work with young people continues from those 1970s to today, because if we're not investing in our young people today, how can we move forward as a people tomorrow?
Right. Wow. Wow. I mean, first, what I want to say is when you said over 50 years, I was like, wow, you don't even look a day over 50. So obviously your work is not stressing you. There's something you're doing good. So that's awesome. But what I want to ask you, the first question is, what do you feel the key characteristics of eldership are?
I think the key characteristics of eldership revolve around who we are as a people, our history, our traditions, our caring, our passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our will. It takes a village to raise a child. Mm-hmm. Who's in the village? And what are they doing? And elders who have acquired years and decades of knowledge, experience, insights, and wisdom. Eldership is ensuring that we don't take that to our grave without sharing and engaging. Mm-hmm. Eldership is about, we're all in this together. And I have a lot to contribute. And I will contribute. Not I have a lot to contribute, but I'm going to be on the sidelines. Or I have a lot to contribute and I'm going to hope and pray. Mm-hmm. This is about actively being involved, engaged, because of your passion for your people and your community. So eldership is not about retiring, because that word is not in our history. There's no such word as retirement. Right. Our best years our best years are right. As elders. We've done the time. Right? We've seen so much. We've experienced so much. How do we contribute that and help pave the way for others as they move forward in life? So those are the key characteristics. It's about passion. It's about caring. It's about acting. Mm-hmm. Built on the experience and wisdom and knowledge that you've acquired over the years. It's not a time to be in a nursing home, and it's not a time to be on the sidelines, right? Eldership is being actively engaged. That's right. As much as you can. Our history is misrepresented because we allow others to present it on our behalf. Mm-hmm. And that is criminal. It is criminal to allow others to talk about who we are and our history and what we're about. Mm-hmm. So we have to step up. We have to be engaged. We have to realize that we're all in this together. We talk about our youths as though they're leaders of tomorrow. They will always be leaders of tomorrow, as long as we keep telling them that. No, you're leaders today. Tomorrow never comes. Mm-hmm. So eldership is about ensuring that they realize that their tomorrow is today. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And elders can explain the importance of it. We can talk about our experience the battles, the victories, the
Mhm.
contributions to help excite and engage and enlighten
Mhm.
our young ones. Because just due to their years, they've not been and they've not seen what we have seen, right? They don't have a crystal ball, right?
Mhm.
They don't have the proper history because the history that they've been told makes no sense.
Right.
For example, Christopher Columbus was not he was not a great explorer. He was a state-sponsored pirate.
Mhm.
So depending on who's telling the story, you speak to the indigenous people in the Caribbean, you speak to the people in Africa,
Mhm.
right? The Mau in Kenya, the
Mhm.
Ashanti people in Ghana, the Igbo in Nigeria.
Mhm.
You speak to the interactions that we had with other people and the price we had to pay. These are not stories that they will tell, but we need to tell. We need to tell these stories to our young ones so that they can see who they really are, who are the descendants of, right?
Mhm.
And this is where eldership plays a significant role. We cannot allow others to tell our story because they've never experienced what we have been through. In fact, they have experienced it as perpetuators of this criminal activity, of this crime, and they will never tell the story. And I'm going to reflect back on an African proverb, and it goes something like this: until lions have their own historians,
Mhm.
the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter.
Right.
I want to talk to the lions and hear what they have to say, because
Mhm.
they would say we were just having a family day on the savannah, right? We were
Mhm.
playing and stuff, and as we normally do, then all of a sudden, some hunter a mile away comes up with this high-powered rifle and shoots the mother lion right in her head, and he comes over there and celebrates it after cutting off her head. Like, we're not going to glorify the hunter anymore.
Right.
We're going to listen to the story of the people that they were responsible for killing.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of I wouldn't say triggered, I don't have the right word right now, but it makes me think of the importance of elders too, is like the system, this system, navigating it as a sovereign being with like their own mind. It's like you need the elder because they've been here and observed the system for as long as they've been around. And
Not only observed it, they've experienced it.
right.
The battle wounds, the scars, the hurt, the pain, the trauma, right? Of
Yeah.
being ripped apart in your families on this so-called transatlantic slave trade. White people that don't know what took place from our perspective,
Right.
they know what took place from their perspective, and they're going to say that there was nothing wrong with it because it was legal. But we've lost 405 years of our history because of the interaction with these people, and we're going to listen to their stories and not listen to our elders.
Right. Yeah, good point. Good point. So like what can community members do to honor our elders?
There's a lot. First of all, get off the sidelines. Stop hoping and praying. Roll up your sleeves and take on individual responsibility through your actions and not through your words. Right? The community has to realize that this cannot happen in isolation. This cannot happen in a silo. Communities have to realize that as we move forward as a community, We can't leave anybody behind. We cannot be sending our elders to warehouses. Oh, well, no, I think they call them nursing homes these days.
Right.
We cannot be doing that.
Yeah.
They need to be in our house. We need to care for them, because sometimes they're still suffering the after effects of their life journeys. We can't hand them over to the oppressor and say, please look after it. It doesn't make any sense, right? So the community has to come together and commit to embracing, but also recognizing and celebrating these people. We would not be here without a resistance movement, right? If we had just thrown the towel in and given up, right, we wouldn't be here right now. We came here from Africa as human labor, free human labor. That's all we were. And when they didn't need this labor because of technology and so on, they wish they could just snap their fingers and we would disappear. And we didn't. So the suffering that we encountered on the plantation and even in the African continent, we have the scars to show. We have the stories to tell, right? And you see it in the elders, right? So the community itself has to do a better job of recognizing the agony, the pain, the suffering of our elders, and we must cherish it more than anybody else does. When our oppressors recognize this more than we do, we've got a problem. Right? Our community, the elders cannot be like an afterthought.
Right.
They must be the first thought. Because you cannot put that experience, that knowledge, that wisdom in a textbook.
Right.
We cannot. Right? So the community has to realize that they have to be at the forefront and ensuring that elders are still respected, they're engaged, they're listening to, and putting them in a nursing home, doesn't do us justice, doesn't do our community justice, doesn't do our people justice, and does not do our history justice.
Right.
The communities have to be up front, right? And we cannot go to the oppressor or the oppressive system, the oppressive institution, to get them to present, to be elders in our community. That's asinine. That's crazy. That's ridiculous. Right? We're not looking for any help or support from you. Right? We're not looking for any guidance. We're not looking for any direction from you. Right? Let's go to the real source, which is our own people.
Exactly.
We have it right in front of us. Right? So that's what the community must do.
So you mentioned having elders like back in our homes and basically having a role in our community and not just shipping them off to a nursing home. But in an ideal world, in your ideal world, what role do you see elders playing in a healthy community?
There's many things that elders can be doing, because the times are different today than they were in our time.
Right.
The influencers, the challenges are different. Whether it's drugs, whether it's social media, whether it's peer pressure, right? Whether it's government dominance in our lives, that's different from where we grew up. We grew up against fighting for civil rights. We grew up fighting for freedom. Right?
Very true.
And we didn't have those influencers that the young ones have. So we have plenty of work to do. We have plenty of work today to do today. Let's draw a picture for you. let's look at a relay race. And we're passing the baton on to the next runner.
Mm-hmm.
It's an exchange that is timed such a way that it doesn't interfere with the race itself, right? It's the elder passing on the baton to the next runner, to the young generation. We cannot hold on to that baton forever. We have to set it free. But the receiving runner cannot be running off without getting the baton.
Right.
Right? The baton's going to fall and you're going to get disqualified. You're going to lose the race. So maybe we've got to understand the changes taking place and the new speed of the generation that's coming up. And maybe we might have to let go of the baton earlier. Maybe we don't have to hold on to it as tight as we, because we're afraid it's going to drop.
Right.
Right? So there's a coordination that needs to take place. Jamil, there's a coordination that needs to take place. And that coordination is from both parties. Because the elder passing on the baton and the runner receiving it, the new generation. We got to make this as smooth as possible because we want to win the race. We don't want to be picking up batons all over the place, right? We don't want that. So we have to understand the new dynamics of the new generation, the influence of technology. We can't say, well, I don't like technology. I don't want it in my life and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I can do without it. No, you cannot do without it. So we have to learn that. Little gimmicks and stuff, right? You know, the social media platform. Oh, you know, I don't want Facebook into my business. Oh, I don't want Instagram. I don't want this, right? You know, if this is where the new generation exists, we better be there.
Right.
There's a two-way responsibility, right? They told me in school that technology will always be there from time began. There's a new technology after a new technology after.
Right.
And the secret to success is learning how to use the technology versus allowing the new technology to use you.
Facts, especially now.
Right?
Yeah.
So the elders now have to embrace what's going on. And we cannot turn a blind eye as things have not changed in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Right.
Right? So eldership is understanding the new dynamics, the new characteristics, right?
Yeah.
And seeing where we can make the adjustment. We cannot be holding on to the baton forever while the runner is running with no baton in their hand. We have to let it go earlier, right?
Yeah. Wow, great point. No one's made that distinction of like elders needing to also keep up with like technology, because most elders are like, oh no, like I'm too old for that, or you know, whatever. But I see that old is not even a part of your like you don't see, when you see elder, you're not thinking old. Like there's no such thing as old. You still need to be able to learn.
There's no such thing as old. There's no thing as
Yeah.
retirement.
Right.
Right?
You did say
stop
that.
it. Stop it. Right? We don't have any, like we should be in the store buying rocking chairs.
Right.
Right? We should be buying new running shoes. Right? You know? This is not the time to sit down there on the couch and spend your time watching CNN or CP24. Right? You got to go to the athletic store and get a new outfit. Right?
Yeah.
We have to do that. Right?
Yeah. So I definitely appreciated that response. But so what is the significance of rites of passage programming for young people in Africa or just the diaspora all around the world? The significance of rites of passage.
The significance of rites of passage is unquestionable important. Right? Because young people today are growing up thinking that they're ready for the race. They're ready for life. And they can do it by themselves. The rites of passage is injected into your growing up, right? As you transition from one stage to another. Like there's no book that's going to do that for you. Hey, right? There's no PhD, there's no master's, there's no diploma that's going to do that. This is real life experience. So rites of passage is an attempt. It's not always successful to transfer, to graduate, so you can move forward knowing that certain fundamentals are covered. There's no paper that I can give Jamila that says you're ready. No, right? Right? You have to go through certain real life experiences to learn. And rites of passage is not one-offs. It has to be a group because we learn from each other, right? Rites of passage, I know everybody has their own individual journey. There's no doubt about that. But when we do it together, we become community again.
Right.
Where we're there for each other. Right? That's why rites of passage is so important. Because guess what? The new generation coming up, there's going to be a time when they have to let go of that baton too.
Right.
The other one's coming behind them. Right? So there's no book. There's no certificate. There's no diploma. There's no degree. There's no PhD, no master's that is going to automatically allow you to move forward in life. It's important as part of your learning, but rites of passage recognizes the key principles, the key concepts, the foundations, the anchors, right, that are important in life. Because no matter which part of life journey you are on, there's certain anchors and foundation pieces that need to be. You do not build a house on sand. You do not build a house hoping and wishing and dreaming. You have to have a solid foundation. Right? You have to have a solid foundation. Right? So rites of passage is making sure that those key pieces are in place to the best of our ability. Because between me and you, those key pieces change over time. They change over time.
Of course.
There's nothing that is static, that is fixed, that stays the same. Right? We pass over the pieces that we have in the foundation that are important, and you might be able to fill in the gaps. Right? That's why rites of passage is critical. And I want to make this point clear. The school system, the school institution has done a terrible job, right?
Yeah.
Of reaffirming the key principles of life, right? The foundation pieces, the anchors, because they don't think it's their responsibility. My job is to deliver curriculum to you. Whether you understand it or not, that's your business, right? You know?
Yeah.
So we need something more solid. So rites of passage, it's a roadmap. It's a guideline. And it's got a proven track record of success. And you take that out of the equation and you depend on government to do this, it's not a good future in our community.
Right. So how long have you been facilitating rites of passage work? I know you mentioned a few things, but how long would you say you've been doing rites of passage work?
Every encounter I have with young people is rites of passage work.
Okay.
In an organized fashion, I've been working with the African Canadian Heritage Association, with children, with parents, with youth, trying to recognize these foundation pieces and putting them in a space where they can learn, try things out in a safe environment, right? Because rites of passage is not the first time you do it, it's gonna go, perfect, right?
Right.
Sometimes you're gonna slip, you're gonna fall, you're gonna slide.
Yeah.
You are, but we're always there,
Right.
right? We're like the safety net, right?
Exactly.
As you spread your wings, as you fly high and fly far, rites of passage is like a safety net that when you slip and slide, you can come back, right?
Yeah.
So my work with rites of passage is not in a formal rites of passage title program,
Right.
right? It's about understanding the responsibility of helping to guide and direct as people transition in life, as they move forward in life, right? We can't leave it to chance. It has to be by design, right? We cannot leave it to chance, and we cannot be hoping and praying, and we cannot be dependent on others to do it for us.
Exactly.
And look at their history.
Yeah. Exactly. So what would you say the most important lesson you've learned in doing this work?
Okay. I'm going to answer it this way. If your life journey becomes too easy, get suspicious. If it's too easy, get suspicious. Because our life journey has been about resilience. It's about survival. It's about pushing against barriers. Because the institutions that are responsible for this oppressive, brutal, criminal system, they've got 400, 500 years on us, right? They're experts at slowing us down or moving us out of the race. The track record is out there. Open any history book. And it's not what they told you in the history book, it's what they didn't tell you that is important.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And I go back to Christopher Columbus was not a great explorer. He was a state-sponsored pirate. Because if you look at his resume and the resume of a pirate, they're one and the same. Except that Spain and Italy sponsored Columbus. And then we go and celebrate him. Does that make no sense?
Right.
So rites of passage is critically important because the systems that we have in place to help humanity, help people, were not designed for us. In fact, they were designed for our extermination. Sorry to be so brutal, right? They were not designed for our survival. They were designed for our extermination.
If life is too easy, you should be suspicious. I don't know if maybe you can expand on that a little bit more, because easy is what everyone is looking for in this day and age, like easy, simple, where they don't have to look at adversity, or challenge. But why is that so important from your words?
I know it's going to grab people the wrong way because I know what we aspire for. But when we live in a system, a Babylonian system of oppression, discrimination, racism, the forces of evil do not take a break.
Facts.
There's no vacation for them. So there's no vacation for us. So we must anticipate and expect resistance by these systems. We must recognize that they've got 400, 500 years of doing this. sometimes they just paint it a little different and they reframe it, but the
Right,
intent is still the same.
right.
So if it gets easy, did they take a vacation? Did they take a break? No, they're not. They didn't. Right? Maybe we just gave up and we lost that fighting spirit.
Mm-hmm.
If we were living on the continent of Africa, I might say something different.
Right.
But when we listen to this system is created for certain people and not for others. So expect that, and the thing about it is that we're not at our best when we try to take it on as individuals.
Right.
And we're not at our best in working together and supporting each other.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why if it gets easy, like, did they take a break? Or did I give up?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they're not taking a break. It's not in their DNA.
Yeah.
They've got all these institutions all over the place lined up with one common objective. As I said, we came here from Africa as free labor under the most brutal and criminal system against mankind.
Mm-hmm.
When they no longer needed us, they wanted to snap their finger and we would disappear, but we didn't. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't disappear. So they've replaced the plantation brutality with another different type of brutality that takes its toll on our children, our youth, our families, and our community. When we get together in a collective way, we have a fighting chance. But maybe it's time that we look to Africa so that we can have that day when we have peace of mind, not always looking over our shoulder. Right? Maybe we've got to bite the bullet and say enough. It's like, okay, I like to paint pictures, right? So
Yeah.
My size foot is size 10. And they put a size 5 shoe in front of me and tell me to put my foot into it. It can't fit in there. And I'm not going to chop up my foot to fit in your size 5 shoe. I'm not going to squeeze up my foot to fit in your size shoe. It's not going to work.
Right.
Right? Send me back home so I can build my size 10 shoe. So my foot can be free. Right? Because that's all we're doing up here. We're squishing and we're squashing and we're hurting and we're paining. Right? To fit into their system. Is that what it, and as elders, it's our responsibility, right, to provide that direction, that guidance that shows you how you can survive, but not only survive as an individual, but so your children can survive and your children's children, because we cannot allow them to have to go through the same system. We cannot. Then we've not fulfilled our role and our responsibility. I'm hoping this is making sense to you.
Yeah, very much so.
You're not going to read this in a book, right? But this is my experience growing up, working with young people, working African Canadian Heritage Association, working with Zero Gun Violence Movement, working as a corporate manager in financial services, connecting the dots and making sure that it's not all in vain. Like, don't put me in a nursing home, please. Right? Just get me a new outfit with some new running shoes so I can stay in the race. Okay?
Trust me, don't worry, we got you. We got you.
Thank you.
No nursing homes, no nursing homes.
Just give me a new outfit, right? And give me some new running shoes, right?
Yeah. But what I liked about, what you said, like, challenge builds character. So ultimately we should be building ourselves, we should be growing and expanding. And even if we're not dealing with an oppressive system over in the West, like even like when you said to build your own shoe in Africa, that way you're free, your foot is free and can breathe and all of that, like there's going to be challenge on, okay, how should I build my own shoe now? Like there's always going to be some sort of a challenge that pushes you to grow and
But
be
one
a
of these
better
days, we're
you.
gonna have this. One of these days, we're gonna have our size 10 shoe,
Right,
right? Right? It's not gonna happen just like this, right?
right.
Because East Africa brings some new challenges, right? But it
Mm-hmm.
brings some new opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm tired of drinking their Kool-Aid and then making the same Kool-Aid, even though it makes me sick, making the same Kool-Aid and give it to my children.
Yeah.
Eldership is making sure that we interrupt that,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That's what eldership is about, right? The suffering, the
Exactly.
pain, the agony, the grief, the fact, all these things. Do we want our children to have to go through it too? Then we have
Mm-hmm.
not helped, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our suffering, our aches, our pains have been in vain. Jamila, we don't have that luxury,
Hmm.
right? And the longer we take to deal with it, the more difficult and complicated it becomes.
Right.
If
Yeah.
I'm going to shed blood and tears, agony, if I'm going to experience agony and pain, I'd rather do that on the continent
Right. Exactly.
than do it here.
Yeah.
Okay?
Exactly. Exactly. Well, the last question to bring this interview to a close is, do you have a call to action for African youth across the world?
A call to African youth,
Call to action, like,
a call to action for African youth across the world. I've never really thought about that, because I got enough problems at home. But when I say at home, I mean in front. But
mhm,
we have to fight back. Like sometimes I think that we're in a boxing ring
mhm,
and we're always ducking.
mm,
No, we need to stand up and start throwing some licks. We got to fight back. We have to tell our own story,
mhm,
right? We have to control the narrative. We have to control the content. We have to be in the driver's seat. We cannot be passengers anymore and hoping the driver is going to take us to somewhere good, right?
right.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to rise up and be willing to fight back, throw punches, right? And stop making excuses for the suffering we're going through. We got to stop hoping and praying.
Mm,
We got to start acting so we can move forward. We cannot be the puppets anymore. We have to be the puppeteer,
that's right.
right? Too many people are pulling our strings. When are we going to stop being the puppeteer and not the puppet in this show, right? So to call the action is about education. It's about awareness. It's about reimagining that size 10 shoe.
Yes.
What does it take to build it so that my foot can be comfortable?
Right.
So that when I put my foot in my shoe, right, it's not squashed up, it's not chopped up, it's not hurting, and it's not paining.
Right.
They're not going to design it for us. We got to
Exactly.
design it for ourselves. That is the call to action, Jamila,
Yeah.
right? We have to get into the driver's seat, get rid of the passenger role,
Mm-hmm.
and realize that we have a significant responsibility as elders
Mm-hmm.
to make this argument to our young people. Because if we don't make it, other people will become the main influencers
Yeah.
through our absence. And I
Mm.
have no confidence in others being the main influencer. I have no confidence in them. Their history speaks years and years of oppression, brutality, hatred, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to change their stripes.
I don't think so either. One thing you said though that I think the youth who watch this will understand is that they or we need to be the ones to take control of the content that is like, content creation, content is like the word of the decade now. So it's like, if we take control of the content, what it is that we're viewing, what we're creating, then
Yes,
we get
yes,
to build.
yes. They tell us to think outside the box. I say, hell with thinking out the box. Blow up the box,
Right,
right? We're not, we've never grown up in a box.
right.
So stop thinking outside the box, because if you think that means you're still in the box.
Facts.
Blow up the box.
Yeah. 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 I didn't even think about it like that. If you're thinking outside the box, you're still in the box trying to think outside of it.
Jamila, like, stop it. Stop it. Don't think outside the box. This is how they control us.
Yeah.
We need to blow up the box so that our children don't have to go through the same.
And with that said, what's the first box, just one box that comes to mind that needs to be blown up?
So there's many of them,
Just
right? Education.
educate. Yeah, that's what came to my mind.
Education is the key. We
Yeah.
need to know our history through our eyes. The Jewish people do not go to the Germans and say, can you tell me what happened in World War II
They
or what
do
happened in
not.
the concentration camps? They
Yep.
write their own story and they make sure everybody knows it.
Yep.
So we go to the same people that oppressed us, brutalized us, right, enslaved us for 500 years and say, oh, can you tell us about our history, please? Does that make any sense to you?
None at all.
So the
Especially the
education,
public school system.
so the education is critical,
Mm-hmm.
right? The education is critical. We need to blow up that box, but we cannot be afraid to insert the content, right,
Mm-hmm.
of the reality of our experience. And we cannot be going to the dollar store to buy it from them. No,
Mm-hmm.
we got to create it ourselves. It's got to be brand new.
Right.
It's got to be brand new. Another example, if I've got the time, is I tell people the slave trade didn't happen. Stop talking about the slave trade. It didn't happen. It's the people have marketed and branded the most brutal criminal chapter in world history as slave trade. We were not slaves and there was no trade. We were not slaves and there was no trade, no legitimate trade.
No real, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We need to rebrand that and call it human trafficking.
Period. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that was never legal.
Right.
And that was a criminal offense from time began. What you did with what you call the transatlantic slave trade. No, it was not. We got to stop drinking their Kool-Aid. We got to make our own juice, right?
That's right.
Right? Because if we say slave trade, it makes us feel as though we were part of it and it was just trading, No, it was not.
Right.
So the people, I got to give them credit for how they've changed history and presented themselves as the savior. Right? And we were participants in it. This is awesome. This should be in every marketing book in school, right? About how you can change people's thinking and mindsets. Right? You take out slave trade and replace it with African human trafficking or just human trafficking. All of a sudden, everything flips in terms of who did what to who and who has to pay back. So I'm not asking you for reparations. I'm asking for charges. I'm asking for punishment. And I'm asking for compensation. Sorry for going over my time, Dr.
No. Hey, because like trafficking is still a very big thing, and
but it has always been illegal.
Exactly, it's illegal.
You cannot be trafficking humans, and that's what they did. But because they call it slave trade,
it makes it seem like it's something else that happened before. Yeah,
and we bought into it.
Yeah.
So when I say education, you can see why the box has to be blown up. Stop thinking outside the box. So don't tell me about we're going to think outside the box. I'm not thinking out the box no more. The box needs to be blown up. so we can
Facts.
reimagine how do we move forward.
Facts. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. No, thank you so much, Louis. Really appreciated just whatever you shared just now. I think that the youth and those who watch this episode definitely will appreciate it. If you have any last words, I mean, what you just said right there was the perfect. We need to blow up the box. No more thinking of outside the box. It's like the perfect closing statement. So we thank you so much. And guys, stay tuned for the next When Elders Speak.
Awesome. Thanks, Jamila. Stay blessed.